So at long last, our special guest of the day is April Lampert. April, I just want to apologize on behalf of everybody who may have already been pre-interviewing you, because I've been told some things that I don't want to co-sign just off the jump here. So thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me today on the show.
So I have to be honest, this was my idea, April, and I am not always on this show. So there was a few weeks ago where I was listening to this show and I heard this sound.
I win in the margins. I'm like,
you're Moneyball of sex?
I'm basically Scott Hatteberg.
A lot of walks, but I'm on base.
Other dudes, they can be Giambi.
You know your role, you play well?
I know my role.
So I don't know how much you know about sports, but there's a bunch of guys who are completely comfortable with being mediocre. And I was like, next time I'm on the show, we got to address this. And I suspect that it's not just the people who are on this show, that a lot of people in our audience also are pretty mediocre when it comes to making people happy. So I figured we'd have you on to help us. So can we start with this? I'm asking for a friend, by the way, clearly. Obviously, I'm asking for a friend. What is the thing that guys generally get most wrong about trying to satisfy their partners?
This is a great question, and I'm really happy that you asked. So when we're talking about straight partnerships, the facts are the numbers never lie. The facts are out there, and 95% of men, when they have sexual activity with their woman, 95% of those people are coming. They're orgasming, right? Mm-hmm. But only 65% of the straight women are having the same experience, meaning they can climax. So what does that mean? There's this percentage of folks out there that are with their partners trying to please their woman and nothing's coming out of it. Well, why? I can tell you why. It's because the clitoris, which is what women own, right? It's the pleasure center, and it's the only body part that either of us have, that any one of us have, that is designed simply for pleasure. So only 4% of women can orgasm from penetration alone. So 96% of us need some clitoral love. And I think that's what happens. And that's the breaking point. What dudes, this orgasm gap, that it's kind of a buzz term that's thrown around a lot. But this is legitimately the issue. And blood flow is the key. Blood flow is the key here. And the clitoris needs blood flow. So that means it needs some love before you're just sticking it in.
April Lampert has been named the industry's Sexpert of the Year multiple times, the co-author of the book Shameless Sex, Choose Your Own Pleasure Path to Unlock the Sex Life You've Been Waiting For. April, you mentioned the clitoris, asking for a friend. How does one find that?
Okay, so the good news is it's not that difficult. The bad news is every single person is different. Some people have a Rubik's Cube when it comes to their vulva. And let's get two things out of the way here. I'm not saying Volvo like the car. I'm talking about a vulva. Now, vagina, everybody thinks of as what the vulva is. So when I'm talking about the vulva, that's the outside, okay? The vagina is what you put your penis inside, okay? So that's just basic anatomy. The clitoris is on the vulva. Sometimes it's tucked inside. Sometimes it is noticeable outside, but it's between the two lips that are sometimes squished together. And the good news is if there's blood flow and arousal, the clitoris usually comes alive and you can see it more.
Here's my issue, if we can just get to it in a few seconds.
Not for a friend?
No, this is straight for me.
Okay.
My issue is that I have a hard time waiting the time it takes to pleasure a woman because I can be much faster and I've got other stuff I want to be doing. So my issue is, what is the way, without thinking of your grandmother, to make it last longer?
Okay.
It's legitimate.
Practice. It's a total legitimate question. And there's all of these. There's a lot of these. I've seen like power pills, right? Like last longer, keep your dick harder, longer, faster. Which I obviously I don't own a penis, so I can't vouch for those things. I do know that there is some efficacy when it comes to some of these pills. But if you don't want to pop a pill, because that's not really safe, you don't know what you're getting. There's a lot of variations of things. And there is Viagra, but Viagra and Cialis and I'm not going to shame those pharmaceuticals because I know they are effective for some folks. However, some people want that real hardness without popping a pill. So there are some things you can use, like cock rings that you can fit around the testicles and the shaft, and they kind of. Do you know what the perineum is? The gooch, the taint.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, wait.
Not your
Follow-up
ass,
question
not
for a
your,
friend.
Not your balls.
Follow-up
Yes,
for a friend. Is that the same as the grundle, or is that different?
That is, so it depends on where you're located in the United States and what you'd like to call it. Yeah. I've learned that the East Coast calls it the gooch, West Coast calls it the taint, in the middle they could call it the grundle. I'm not sure, but that's a good stat to learn later on. It's also something that I think that don't wrestlers wear those, or bikers too. So bringing it back though,
Thank you.
Like different, of course, different devices there are out there, and they can also help pleasure your partner, your female partner, pleasure your woman, because it'll constrict blood flow. Kind of, you could get a double motored cock ring that isn't aggressive looking. That's not going to be scary. That's not going to be like, what is this thing? And you put it on, and then when you start to get blood flow to the penis, you're feeling the vibrations of the C ring, and then your partner, if she's grinding on you, can also feel the vibrations. Now, remember something else about the clitoris that I didn't mention. And this might be a little bit hard to wrap your head around because it is such a mystery, the clitoris.
Proceed.
Yes, a lot of this information wasn't even discovered until like the 90s. That's how long it took. So the clitoris, when we look at it, it actually, from the outside, you can only see, and I wish I had a vulva puppet, but I don't. But I'll use my fingers. Like, think of a wishbone. And what you see on the outside, on the vulva of the clitoris, is only about a quarter of the actual entire membrane. And did you know that the clitoris is made up of the same erectile tissue as what you all have? So we can get clitoral boners when that blood flow starts. And the rest of the clitoral legs are located inside the vaginal canal. So if you want to give your partner a clitoral boner, and I know that you said you're busy, you want things to happen fast. Well, it takes 4 times the amount of time for a woman to get the blood flow they need to get aroused. And foreplay is the most important part of sex. Dude, you have to understand. You need to have the patience and the time. Now, if you just want to, you could just have if you talk to your partner and you're like, okay, I want a quickie. Well, then watch them masturbate after, or help them. And don't just get out of the bedroom.
Yes, Dominique.
You're welcome.
April.
Write it down. I do want to be we haven't been completely inclusive as far as sexual preference, but men are stupid, so it's not that hard. 2 men together, I feel like it's really not that hard to get each other in the right place. But from a woman's standpoint, we
have the manual for that.
Yeah, I mean, we know what we're doing when it comes to that.
The
manual.
I like that one.
This might be a bit of a silly question, but as a sports fan and a sports broadcaster, we kind of celebrate the type of athletes who have like a special go-to move. And every now and then I try something new, or I'm looking for a new move.
Yeah, my friend does that too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Asking for a friend. Are there new moves that you could teach us that we haven't potentially experimented with?
Okay, so I don't know what y'all are doing. You can send me videos if you want later. But I would say trying new things is always fun, because don't just missionary style all the time. Come on, no, we're not monotonous creatures. We get bored easily, right? Humans need novelty. They always need something fresh. So, is there a specific move? So this is going to be something that I like. Always doggy style is a good way to go. But then you could have the old reach around the doggy style and reach around and feel the clit, or ask first. Don't just do things without permission. Be like, hey, can I feel your clit? Because doggy style can feel great. That might be a typical one. But what about adding some extra gear, like some fun gear? Like, ask if your partner wants to be spanked a little bit, or add some like restraints that obviously consensual, because that can take away. When you take away one of the senses, like whether it's a blindfold, whether it's use of the arms, always remember to have consent, everyone. I'm not saying just tie up your chick and then just go for it. No, ask if she's into this. And that can kind of leave such a wide canvas for you to paint with different positions.
I have a friend who can't smell or taste, so that is a pretty good head start.
Oh, there you go.
Take away a sense.
Do you know who Dr. Ruth is, April?
Of course. I love Dr. Ruth.
Is she your mentor?
She was just a goat, right? She really overcame in the world of sexuality, which is still such a thing. Like, look, it's fun to talk to you guys about this, but it's still like giggly and sometimes taboo when I say like gooch or cock rings. People are like, whoa, they can get overwhelmed. I think she was just amazing. Now, she was like grandma, right? She's like sweet old grandma. She was going to like take a pie out of the oven and then tell you about her favorite dildo. And you're like, okay. So I would say in terms of mentorship, yes, Dr. Sex with Emily, she's like one of my dearest friends and probably my biggest mentor in terms of this field. This field found me. I studied law, right? I never expected to be teaching the world about sex and relationships. I feel really honored, though, that I get to talk to you guys about this. You guys are fun.
I'm quite thankful you're doing this because there's such a stigma. All men are so macho, pretending they don't have problems, pretending.
Yeah, lots of my friends have stigmas.
They're getting laid all the time, and I love the fact that you're willing to come on a show like this, and I love the fact that we have the flexibility to do this. I hope the audience appreciates it. But I have one quick question, and we don't have a lot of time left.
She joined a show like this.
A very quick question.
You got it. You got it, April.
What is exactly your view of monogamy?
Okay, so this is a hot topic right now, right? People are talking about ethical non-monogamy, opening relationships up. I am
1
a
minute or
monogamous.
less, I need to hear you.
Okay, so I'm a monogamous person for now. So remember that sexual orientation, relationship styles, all of those things can change. They're fluid. So I think that if you can do non-monogamy in an ethical or consensual way, and I know that word's so often thrown around as well, so don't tune out. But if you can do it with a partner that's like, well, I'm bored too. You don't have to say it like that, but I'm curious, because opening up a relationship doesn't necessarily have to be going out and banging someone. It can be people can have emotional relationships. They can have sexual relationships digitally. People sometimes think a sex doll is cheating, right? So I would say I'm not pro cheating. I know it can happen. Sometimes relationships they go really, really far south and there's no way to get out except adding some spice, and there's nothing that you can do in the bedroom to get out of that rut. There are things if both parties want to work on it. But yes, so as far as I'm not going to preach non-monogamy, do whatever feels good for y'all, okay?
April Lampert, we thank you for your expertise, author of the book Shameless Sex. And again, I apologize for everything, literally everything David Sampson just said.